From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. One of President Biden's top domestic goals is close to being accomplished. A bipartisan group of senators, including Montana's Jon Tester, were at the White House today after reaching an agreement on the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. But that bill, which took weeks to come together, still has some hurdles to cross before passing Congress. Natalie Brand has details tonight.
Speaking from the East Room, President Biden officially announced he's reached an infrastructure deal with a bipartisan group of senators.
This bipartisan agreement represents the largest investment in public transit in American history.
He stood alongside the group after a final meeting Thursday morning when they agreed to the details.
None of us got what we wanted.
The $1.2 trillion proposal includes $579 billion in new spending focused on physical infrastructure, including transportation, water, energy, and broadband.
It was essential to show the American people that the Senate can function.
A major sticking point they overcame: how to pay for it. The deal includes redirecting a portion of unused COVID relief funding and enhanced tax enforcement.
There's no gas tax increase, no fee on electric vehicles.
A deal on infrastructure would be the first major bipartisan bill struck between the new administration and Congress, but it still has a long ways to go.
I don't know how far it's going to get. I think it'll get all the way. We got the president behind it, this group here.
Progressive Democrats want assurances there will be a separate bill that moves through the reconciliation process that includes other White House priorities, such as child care, addressing climate change, and job training.
I'm going to fight like heck to get them the rest of what I think has to be done.
Democratic leaders have made clear that both bills will move forward at the same time.
There ain't going to be an infrastructure bill unless we have the reconciliation bill passed by the United States Senate.
Congressional leaders are aiming to bring legislation to the floor next month before August recess. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Montana Senator Jon Tester is one of those who've been working hard to get the compromise passed. He said today it's long overdue.
For a country that has been living years off our parents' and grandparents' infrastructure, this is a big deal. My colleagues and I have been working overtime for weeks to hammer this agreement out. Negotiations like this are always difficult, and like with every good compromise, neither side got everything they wanted.
Montana's other senators, Steve Daines and House Republican Conference Chairwoman Elise Stefanik, are also stepping up pressure on the Biden administration to ease restrictions on the closed Canadian border. He hopes that move will place additional pressure on Ottawa as well. Here's MTN's Dennis Bragg.
The border has been shut down since last year because of COVID restrictions, with the Canadian government recently extending those closures to July 21st. Senator Daines says he's amazed and shocked that's the case when people are still crossing from Mexico.
The southern border, because of President Biden's policies, remains wide open to illegal immigrants and drugs, and the northern border in Montana remains closed. And President Biden just extended the northern border closure to July 21st. So I can't wait any longer. Montanans can't wait any longer for President Biden to do what's right and open the northern border.
The Restoring the Northern Border Travel Act would require the Department of Homeland Security to expand the list of essential cross-border travel within the next 10 days. That would include allowances for individuals traveling to visit immediate or extended family members who are U.S. citizens or a permanent resident. Right now, many families have been unable to cross the border from Montana and other states into the Canadian provinces, leading to separations lasting more than a year, or expensive flights and quarantines in Canada.
This is having a direct impact on so many of our businesses across northern Montana. It's having impact on families. We're heading into, of course, the big tourism season. This is a lost opportunity for Montana businesses. We need to open up the northern border.
Other changes would allow individuals to cross if they own or lease property in the U.S., travel for business and site visits, or traveling to board a flight at a U.S. airport. The bill calls on the administration to begin developing a plan to fully restore non-essential border crossings within 20 days. But will congressional action convince Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau?
It's kind of that old saying, Dennis, lead, follow, or get out of the way. It's time to lead and get the northern border open. We're going to put pressure to get the United States side opened up, and that would pressure, I think, Trudeau to get Canada opened up as well.
In Missoula, Dennis Bragg, MTN News.
Well, Senator Tester also says he's continuing to hear firsthand from his neighbors on the negative impacts from the continued border closure. He says each day that passes without a resolution is a hit to Montana's family farmers and ranches in rural communities along the border. All right, turning to weather now. Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh joining us. Ed, kind of a bumpy night out there tonight in some parts of the area. How are things looking now?
Finally getting a little quieter. The cold fronts moved by, Russ. Take a look at some of the pictures you've been sharing with us. We'll start in the Culbertson area. This was around 5:15 this afternoon. You see the big wall cloud that ended up with about a 1/4 inch of rain in about 15 minutes time, and also some small hail. Rainbows, and so we have some of the area where we saw some hail as well around areas close to Judith Gap. John shared this picture of a storm cloud right around the Winnett area from earlier into the evening, and that was part of the same system that was moving off the mountains earlier in the afternoon and evening. Sandy shared this picture. You can see some of the hail that started to collect around the Glendive area, but also some areas of rain along with it as well, and also a rainbow from Leslie, and there was more of them across the region after the storm started to ease up. Take a closer look at the forecast coming up in a little bit.
Well, at least one person is dead and nearly 100 are unaccounted for after a South Florida beachfront apartment partially collapsed early this morning. The Surfside 12-story apartment building collapsed just after 1:30, and search and rescue efforts continue. Rescue crews say they've pulled dozens of people from the wreckage, but still fear that the death toll will begin to climb. The town's mayor said about half of the building's 130 units fell. Investigators are still trying to find out why the building collapsed, but a study from a researcher at Florida International University found that building had been sinking at a rate of 2 millimeters a year for the last 3 decades. A 17-year-old Billings girl died in a single vehicle rollover crash early this morning between I-90 and Colson Park. Yellowstone County Coroner Cliff Mahoney says 17-year-old Adriana Dawn Lentz was ejected and died from multiple blunt force injuries. Montana Highway Patrol says the vehicle was heading east on I-90 just after 3 a.m. Just before the Yellowstone Bridge, Lentz was negotiating a right-hand turn when her vehicle drifted off the road and rolled over. Montana's unemployment rate is now down to 3.6%. That's compared to 9.1% a year ago. Yet many businesses are struggling to find employees. Worker shortage is a national problem, and Billings certainly not immune, starting to take a toll on local businesses. But as Q2 Shaquille Cozart reports, some are now upping the ante.
Businesses nationwide are seeing a shortage of employees to fulfill their customer demands, and this is no different in Billings. The employee shortage is affecting everything from major retailers in Billings to your local stores.
As you've seen everywhere, there's hiring crunches everywhere, and just trying to make sure the people who enjoy the outdoors know that we are looking for people to hire, and that we obviously love what we do here, and we want people to enjoy the outdoor lifestyle, to come and work with us and have fun with us.
At Cabela's, in hopes to bring in more employees, they're offering a sign-on bonus, which is something that Puliano says in her 18 years of being with the company, she's never seen.
So if you are looking for work and you love the outdoors, new hires who come on board with us by July 1st get a $750 signing bonus.
The hiring bonus started in the beginning of June, and Puliano said that roughly 75 applications have been submitted. But some local businesses haven't been so fortunate. At Cal's Chicken Coop in Billings, they have had multiple applications come through, but not much is happening after that.
I've gone through quite a few interviews, and there's many people who apply, and they'll go through all of the motions of asking who's going to interview them and where the interview place is, and then just don't show up. So we will have things planned to hire on new employees, and then no one comes in for the interview. Or people will come into the interview and then never respond again.
Roni said they have paid for services like BetterHelp to search multiple job sites and bring in employees, but have seen no returns. She said that while they can't compete pay-wise with big names like McDonald's and other food chains, they're trying to make the job as appealing as possible for new hires.
We are doing our best. We're very flexible on schedules. We work around people. We really try to focus on that we understand that you're a person and life happens outside of work. So we try to keep our employees and draw them in from that standpoint.
Now both Cabela's and Cal's Chicken Coop will still be hiring until their stores are fully staffed. Reporting in Billings, I'm Shaquille Cozart with MTN News.
Roney added that Kel's chicken coop has plenty of hours to give, and having more employees would take a lot of pressure off the current staff. Symphony in the Park returns to Pioneer Park this Sunday, along with the great music of the Billings Symphony. Another favorite is the Kids Conductor Contest. I caught up with a former winner of that who's now in college and will be coming back to perform.
Rosie Weiss has been playing the violin almost as long as she's been walking. She started at the tender age of 3.
My dad heard of this method called the Suzuki method, and how it's great to start young kids on violin, and that's a great method. And so he tucked that in the back of his mind. It was like, oh, if I ever have kids, maybe that's something I have them do. So sure enough, he remembered when I came around, and he was looking into it. By this time I was 3, and he said he freaked out because apparently you're supposed to start your kids when you're 2. So he was like, oh no, it's too late.
It wasn't too late. Rosie quickly progressed. At the age of 8, she won the Billings Symphony's Child Conductor Contest.
I remember preparing for it. I was like, conducting contest, I'm going to nail this. So I was like practicing with recordings, like in my 2 patterns, super simple. You know, I just felt great. I felt really natural when I was up there. And then, yeah, I won. And now every time, Ann trots it out. You know, back in the day when I won the conducting contest, it was pretty cool.
By the age of 12, she would become the youngest intern in symphony history and play for 10 years before eventually heading off to the University of Miami on a full scholarship.
It's an art form, and there's certainly, you know, people say, oh, you're so talented, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into it too. I work really hard at it because I love playing for people, I love sharing my music with people, and that's what it's really all about.
She'll be doing that again this Sunday at Symphony in the Park.
The symphony has just been so influential on my overall development, from the early years of playing in the symphony to coming back as a soloist and having that experience, and getting to a bunch of outreach programs at schools all over the place. So I really credit the symphony to giving me all of the experience that I have today.
Well, the fun gets started at 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. The Symphony takes the stage at 7. I'm looking forward to emceeing it, and Q2 is proud to be a sponsor. Hope to see you there. Still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news on Q2, President Biden begins to ramp up vaccination efforts as the new Delta variant begins to spread. We'll have more on that coming up in tonight's Health Watch. Then a little later in sports, from a landmark Supreme Court case to a new ESPN TV deal, we catch up with Montana State's athletic director coming up in just a bit.
From